Greetings and welcome from a place called Chevy Chase Circle in Washington, D.C. along Connecticut Avenue. Today's coverage focuses on the May 2, 2018 earnings announcement and its implications for Tesla. Nikola sues Tesla based on external similarities and confusion of the marketplace. And the third is we look at software issues that are impacting Tesla. In particular, we've been able to track what's been going on with Autopilot 2 and the fact that there was a small lawsuit in which Tesla is going to be paying everybody, I guess, $20 as a small settlement for things not working as planned. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for taking time out to join us. If this is your first time on our channel, please take time to like and subscribe. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. And I also wanted to note again that I love it when you guys say hello from all over the country, and that includes you, Bob. But you'll notice that I typically cannot respond to everyone because it sort of screws up the flow of the conversations, and several of my viewers have asked me not to do that. So we'll be happy to respond to any questions or hellos at the end of our talk. Please also note that any support on Patreon would be really appreciated. Our link will be below, as well as we do typically put one or two ads in, usually at about the 5-minute mark each time, and would greatly appreciate you taking a few minutes to watch that because it definitely helps support the channel in that fashion. So today is a huge day, and it looks like every earnings announcement that comes out with Tesla is going to be huge for the foreseeable next couple of quarters until they get to profitability. The numbers came out and Tesla earned a little bit more than expected, and they lost therefore a little bit less than expected. They confirmed that they're producing approximately 2,100 units a week, and I believe this does not include the shutdown period where they were ramping up to be ready to go to 5,000. Tesla has confirmed that they're going to need to be producing at about the 5,000 unit per week level in order to get to cash flow positive, and their target is to have that done by June. So in theory, by June they should be at about 20,000 units a month being produced, looking forward to rolling up into the 6,000 to 7,000 unit per month level. So if you're further down on the line in terms of when you get your car, you start to get a feel for how long out it is before you start getting your vehicle. My take on things is that I expected Tesla to come in about these numbers. It was no huge surprise. It'll be interesting to see how the stock market reacts, because the initial number pushed the stock price up 10 points. And I kept watching it on 15-minute increments, and now it's down $16 in after-hours trading. So I wonder if some really sharp analysts didn't identify a problem that wasn't obvious immediately. I expected Tesla to meet or beat estimates because Elon carefully tracks the stock, and Tesla has a whole bunch of cash sitting in different places on the balance sheet where he can move it around to sort of improve the story slightly. He can't totally change the story, but he can improve it slightly through cash sleight of hand that comes with having a lot of cash everywhere that you can work with to paint a really nice picture. So my overall is that I'm happy there wasn't a disaster. I'm happy it didn't tank the stock. I'm happy that they're doing 2,000 a week, and that they are indeed planning to add an extra shift and go to 3 shifts and get the 6,000 cars a week-ish that they're hoping to do by June. And I think all that's still on the table and possible. I guess the only thing that I'd be searching for is, did they identify the problems they had relative to the shutdown and then retrofit, and then kind of moving from there, kind of figuring out what's going on. I have to admit I was distracted because a good question was popping up that I'll be addressing further in our story, and I was trying to make sure I stayed on top of it. So in general, the numbers weren't off the chart real bad, right in the middle, and therefore the stock price is about in line with what those numbers imply. And I think that everything's fine in terms of the company doing okay and moving forward, and there's nothing real crazy happening. The next thing that I wanted to dive into is that Nikola is suing Tesla. Now, as we've reported, we've been tracking Nikola's activities and what's been happening over time. And the conclusion we came to was that Nikola is in actually very deep trouble right now. And the big problem they're having is with Tesla coming out with their truck and a whole bunch of what would have been Nikola customers aligning with Tesla. The disappearance of those customers are killing the value proposition of Nikola getting going. So it wasn't an if, the question was what was the next move that Nikola was going to make. So their first move was to return all deposits and claim they don't need the money because they've got $8 billion in sales. Then the next move was just now to sue for $2 billion. And I'm sort of shocked at what the basis of this suit is. If you look around the web, including electric.co, etc., there, I guess, have three causes of action. One, Tesla copied them with the mid-truck entry design, is one of their claims. The second is that there's a wraparound design for the glass that matches Nikola. And I have to admit, the third one I can't remember, but those are the two primary. The thing that's strange to me about the suit is that why spend all that money, on legal ridiculousness when you've got a factory to build? And this suggests to me that things are so bad at Nikola that they're hoping to at least recoup a few dollars in nuisance lawsuit, where you file the suit hoping to get a little bit of a payoff because it's cheaper to settle than to drag all the litigation costs out and go from there. So you got to calculate what those numbers are. And I think that, I guess $3 to $5 million to cover legal fees might be about the number. I just have to say that I'm sort of shocked here because Nikola is actually very lucky that Tesla doesn't have time to deal with them on a countersuit basis, because basically Tesla has enough cash and lawyers to run the bill up to basically bankrupt Nikola. And number one. Number two, in my mind, I'm not a patent attorney, but I know a decent number of them, and I've been comparing notes with them on the key basis elements when you file certain suits. And if you look at the two trucks head to head, there's no doubt that with the mid-vehicle design and the pointy nose of the Tesla truck, etc., the differences are too great to even bother. This is a complete waste of time for everybody involved. But I'm thinking that maybe Nikola can get a few dollars that they can say to their investors, hey, it wasn't as bad as it looked. We got a few dollars out of them. We're not as bad off as we thought we were going to be. So the bottom line is that I think it's a stupid lawsuit. They have been sued. I do feel sorry for Nikola because Tesla's capabilities represent a disaster for Nikola short and long term. And the disaster is that it reduces their marketplace for selling trucks to a very narrow number. I have to admit, the shocking part of the lawsuit is the fact that Nikola deliberately chose the name Nikola as a way to infringe on the patents of the word Tesla, because obviously Nikola Tesla was the person after which they named, and by using the first part of the name, Nikola basically was riding on the tails of the success of Tesla. So I really think that Nikola is lucky that Tesla doesn't sue them by the marketing sort of name implication use that goes on there. And I therefore think that the suit is complete without merit, and it's a complete nightmare. And I think it's the last gasp for Nikola before they duck out, because the amount of cash they would need to do what they're talking about doing efficiently is just so great that I just think they're a dead duck in the water. The next thing I wanted to dive into, and I was requested by one of my viewers, is the whole area of software issues for Tesla. Now, if you talk with the CTO of Tesla, Elon and company, and Tesla really considers it more of a software company than they do a hardware company. So the question is, why is it that we have software issues going on, in particular with Autopilot 2? And the answer is Elon is always in a rush. And if you give the company 3 years or so, they can do what most companies, in the case of Mobileye, do in 5 years. So when Tesla announced that they were going to put out this Autopilot 2, for those of you who got it early, it had very little functionality when you started compared to what had existed previously. Now, if we step forward, you'll notice that over time, they're working it out. The nightmare to consider here is that there's this problem, which is in the case of Mobileye, and Mobileye will be increasing the number of cameras, but their setup was using a camera in rear, one in the front, and then they were using radar. Now those are basically 3 data points. When Tesla went to 8 sensors, or 8 cameras, sonar, and I think 14 sensors, the issue was, how do you hand off all that information? That's a huge amount of information. It has to be handed off from one camera to the other. Is it a new vehicle or is it the old vehicle? Let's say if you have a car that goes between 2 cameras, how do you tell what's going on there sort of with that issue? So I bring this up because the bottom line is that when Tesla went to 8 cameras, it has a lot of potential. It's just that it's going to take another year before it's ready. So the reality of software issues isn't that Tesla can't handle doing software. It's that Elon likes to put out mandates that are way more aggressive in time than is realistic. And therefore you have some really good engineers that don't look that sharp because it's not working. But they told Elon when it would be ready. He just decided that he wanted it, in half or a third the time that was realistic. And so it just takes more time to get done. So I don't think there's any mega nightmare there from a handling software standpoint. The final thing I wanted to dive into is the matter of, there was a class action lawsuit related to the fact that the highest cost features for the Autopilot 2 were not available to customers. And so there's a class action lawsuit. Evidently, everybody that paid up gets about $20 back after legal fees. It's not a lot after you spent, I think, an additional $3,000, plus you're waiting on those features to be approved by the authorities. So I kind of bring this up because, I've always been like, wait a second, how are you selling features at a discount, nice, which is true, that may never be approved or approved down the road? And so, I guess $20 a head isn't a huge cash hit for Tesla, but I think it is great that a lot of people decided to pay up. I think 35,000 people paid up for this, despite there being delays in when it'll be available. So in general, I kind of chose to do a special show at a time we normally don't do it, because I wanted to sort of rotate through what we're seeing in terms of the numbers. I also wanted to, sort of jump on the storyline of these earnings that have come out and where we are with the company and the stock potentially. Unfortunately, it's selling off right now. If something drops $16 in the after hours, it can get back to, the $300 range where it was trading at the end of today during the regular market day in New York. But $16 down sort of implies that this sucker could be down $30 or 8% once the market opens on March 3rd, which is a Thursday. I think at this point, investors have been patient. There's a lot of misrepresentations of the fact that, Elon Musk and Tesla is a bad company. They're going out of business, all these other things. I think you can really watch the stock price, and the investors are saying that we're not thrilled, so it's not at $400, but we're not in the doldrums because they're selling Model S's and X's. They've got great new products coming. They just have to produce more Model 3s and it'll be fine. And so at this point, we get into another wait to see if he can do 5,000 units starting in June, hopefully early June, based on the shutdown and the modifications that were done. You know, I have to admit, I have to do more research with the patent folks to learn more about the merits of the Nikola suit, but I really think it's a nuisance suit, and I think a countersuit could result in Nikola losing a lot of money and screwing up their ability to ever deliver a product. But I do think at this point it's implied that they're in a capitulation mode right now, and instead of trying to win in the marketplace, they're trying to win in the courtroom. And I just don't think that there are any real grounds for them to work with, because you know the difference of the trucks are just too great to make that lawsuit work at all. Again, wanted to thank you my friends from Chile and from other spots that have said hello on here. As usual, please take time to like and subscribe. Could use some support on Patreon if you would. We'd love to upgrade our camera situation. I'm going to close out today with a quick take the camera out and look around what's here in this area so you guys have a feel. It's about 7 o'clock p.m. on May 2, and I'm going to jump out of the car here and get the outside view here going. So we're at Chevy Chase Circle in Washington, D.C. And this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Look forward to any and all questions and statements regarding our comments today. Tschüss, mach's gut, German, au revoir, French, adios, Spanish, lahitraot, Hebrew, or shalom, choda hafez, Farsi. And we're looking forward to any and all comments once again. And thank you for taking time out to visit with us again. Our next show is typically on Sunday in the AM. We will have some special show activity at noon on Saturday for our Patreon subscribers. Thanks once again for visiting with us, and we look forward to our next interaction.